Okay, we are live. I'm here with Albie Stasek and none other than our powerful CEO and founder, Glenn Sanford. How are you doing today, Glenn?
Jay, doing great. Al, great to see you, man.
It's
I
great to
love
see
the
you,
pictures in
Glenn.
your background.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we got there's I don't know if you can see that one. There's when you and
Oh yeah,
Jason and
NASDAQ.
the
Yep.
NASDAQ hitting the bell. Just something like I keep that up and I literally see it every morning I walk in. It reminds me of what a special opportunity you've given us, and we're forever grateful. I never thought on my bucket list it would be to hit the closing bell at NASDAQ, but you made that happen. We wanted to bring you on, and obviously you had just taken over the role, taken back the role of CEO for eXp Realty, and you were already CEO, stayed CEO for World Holdings. And I was talking to Jay and you, obviously, in the green room right before we came on here, and talking about a book that Jay and I'm sure you're probably going to run out and get it now, but it's called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. It's by Ben Horowitz. It's one of those books Jay gave me about, I'd say 8 years ago. I want to say something like that, or close to that anyway. And it hit home because whether you're operating a big multi-billion-dollar corporation like your own, or even a small team or a brokerage, when times are easy, times are easy. And then when it gets tough, that's when the rubber meets the road, where you really need to have that next level of toughness and leadership to make tough decisions when the market's not easy, when competition picks up. And I just want to, before we kind of get into some of the questions, Ben talks about peacetime business means there are times when the company has a large advantage over the competition in the core market. It's when the market's growing. In times of peace, the company can focus on expanding the market and reinforcing the company's strengths and value proposition, which we have throughout this amazing run we've had just with you in the last 5.5 years. Of course, the company's 11 years old now, I think, going on 12. In wartime, a company's fending off imminent exponential threats, such as other competition. Some threats are sources including competition, macroeconomic changes, and market changes. And we're all experiencing those types of changes in the environment with real estate right now. Rates are higher than they've ever been compared to last year, especially. And we find ourselves in a position with our new wartime CEO, Glenn. We appreciate you stepping up on and saddling up once again.
Oh no, it's my pleasure. And the interesting thing about going on through early 2022 was the market was great. We're growing like crazy. There's a lot of things going on, and it did give me it gave me a lot of bandwidth to go work on other projects. Now the projects weren't near as big. Now eventually they could be substantial, but eXp Realty is, for all intents and purposes, the big business that been doing this for 13 and a half years, building eXp. And Jason and I counted it up. This is my fourth time in the CEO spot. Jason's been CEO a couple times in that mix, so it's been him and I. But this year, when actually a little bit before the end of the year, I was like, I really want to get involved and really create, alignment. We've got so many amazing people in the organization that built, large businesses in the business. And I could tell that, a lot of people were frustrated with the market, frustrated with, what was going on. There was a little bit of not having an aligned voice. And it seemed that if I got, more involved, that alignment would get a lot easier for everyone. And then also, I love getting my hands dirty, and I hadn't done that at this intensity for a while, and it's obviously intense. It's hard, but it's also a lot of fun. Getting involved doing this. So I think this is since January 3rd, which was my first day back. I think I've done a video almost Anyway, a lot of videos. I can't tell you how many. So thanks for having me on, because I know you guys have, this is how you've built a large portion of your business, has been just sharing, what's been going on, why, who joined, why did you make a decision to join eXp? And it's been just amazing to watch. And one of the things I was thinking about was, we've got so many things inside of eXp that, agents, even with eXp, don't even know sometimes all the value that we've got. And a lot of times, agents are actually paying more attention to what takes place on social media than in our own intranet. So I thought this would be a great way to, just have a conversation.
Absolutely. What I've found over the last 5 years, Glenn, that's been, the challenge, I feel like everybody should be at eXp, and the challenge is there is so much value in the model, and there's so many ways that we can help people with their real estate businesses, that most people don't really know all of the benefits until they really sit down and do their own homework. And one of those benefits has been, it's been amazing to watch the number of top producing teams that have joined this company in the last 5 years has just been astounding. And it wasn't always that way in the beginning when we joined, and many of the markets we went into, we didn't have a top producing team or a big brokerage that had moved over. And certainly now I feel like we have, the top producing agents all across the country. And it's a huge value add to the value proposition. At least that's how I see it, is when you have the agents, and this was the way that I grew my business, was I got around people that were successful at levels that were higher than I was. And I was able to learn from them and grow because of the things that I learned from them, and they would share with me and that sort of thing. But I had to fly around the country, all these different places, and pay all these different masterminds to be part of these groups. Yet here we are at eXp, where these agents are literally opening their playbooks and sharing the best practices of what they're doing today, is especially in the shifting market, because we've all had to make changes to our approach. And it's a huge value add to the agents that join. What's your perspective on how you've seen some of these top producing teams and how they've added to the value proposition of eXp overall?
Well, one, it's interesting because I'm doing, we're on the second season of the expansion podcast for eXp. And so I'm interviewing icon agents. I think we put out one new episode a week, but I just talked to 4 icons last week, 4 the week before. And so I'm always doing these interviews and finding a little bit about their business. And what I'm learning is, the way that, and I'll go back, Jay, you and I, especially, maybe Al as well, but, in that mid 2000, 4, 5, 6, 7, when we were, top agents, you were well ahead of me at the time. But it was about how do you build sort of inbound lead gen off of the web, SEO, pay-per-click. That was kind of the big way to generate leads. Now what that's still a portion of almost every top team's business. But what is becoming apparent is just the power of social in building businesses that didn't exist before really Facebook. So 2008 it really didn't even exist, and now it's for a lot of agents, it's the primary way that they're generating business, and a lot of business, like building a lot of that. So I'm seeing that. I mean, that the actual blocking and tackling of building and scaling your team is fairly similar. That hasn't really changed that much since. But what has changed is the scale at which teams have been built. They're dramatically bigger than they were. The top teams of 2007. If you were doing $150 million a year and you were doing 300 to 400 sides a year, that was pretty much the top of the game.
Right.
Now we're seeing teams doing 1,000 sides a year, 1,300 sides a year. One agent that joined us in Houston did 3,400 sides. He came to eXpCon and has either joined or in the process of joining. And you're just hearing about these massive production differences and just learning about those businesses and how they've truly scaled to numbers I didn't even think was possible in running teams.
Right. No doubt about that. It's been fascinating to see. I never thought I would see. I felt like someone would hit 1,000, but like 2,000 and 3,000 sides. It's incredible. We've got several teams that have joined eXp that are doing those kind of numbers. So it's great to be able to lean in, and I love this model because there's an incentive for them to share. There's a reason for them to share. We all win together here, and so that just is a very unique part of our value proposition that a lot of people don't really understand. Inside your brick and mortar office, the agents of the office are not going to give their best ideas away because they see you as competition. And so it's just been fun to watch it grow, and we certainly have attracted some of the top people in the industry.
Well, and I think the other piece is that, if you're building a team, and whether it's 400 or 1,000 sides or 15 or 2,000 or 3,000 sides a year, it's a pretty intense business to get to that type of scale. And in most cases, 90+% of the cases of building those large teams, they're not sustainable at that level of production without that team leader being 100% engaged in the business. In some cases, some people have figured out how to actually pull themselves out, and that's a whole different skill set. But for about 70, 80, 90% of teams, it's a very hands-on activity, which means there's a lot of burnout, and there's a lot of almost I'm a trap of sorts. Of having to go through those exercises. And that's what I recognized early on in my career, is that how do I get off of the hamster wheel, even though it's a great business. I mean, it's a phenomenal business. And if you're doing those types of sides, you're netting millions of dollars a year as a business, which is great. But you don't have a life, and you don't really know how to scale out of that. And that's what we wanted to solve for when we launched eXp, was literally how do you have an exit strategy that eventually, when you do want to slow down, you don't feel like you're giving up a stream, all of your income, because it's we're dedicated to just building the team. And that's the thing that so many teams that I've talked to, in the last since 2015, we started really pull over some decent sized teams and some large teams, et cetera. But there's so many of those team leaders that have basically in tears thanked me, but thanked us for starting the model, because they now have a life beyond just running the team, and they feel like they can actually take their foot off the gas.
Yep. So true. I mean, I feel that very closely to my situation was when I tried to step out of production in my team. Certainly a hard thing to do, and eXp's business model allows you to do it. And so very grateful for that.
Yeah. And we're talking about team leaders, and the subject of leadership comes up often in many organizations and many companies, certainly, because it's there's a quote that we got to talk to Rob Flick, which we haven't talked to Uncle Rob for a few years now, and he reemerged, and he came on one of our meetings with the Alphas, and he threw a quote out. I wrote down. I had a whole page of notes after Rob came on, but the one thing that I think connected with me with this call, specifically with you, is that people, specifically agents, aren't looking to change brokerages. They're looking for someone new to follow. Said differently, they're looking for a new leader. Someone, their current leader isn't leading them to what their B is, if they're trying to get from A to B. I couldn't help but think about your ability to bring on winners, and the list is long. It's been impressive to watch over the last 5.5 years since Jay and I have been involved with your company in this amazing movement. People like Dave Kennard, people like Veronica Figueroa. I mean, the list goes. The list goes on and on. Michael Valdez, and recently you've brought a Leo. Is it
Pereira?
Pereira? Correa, sorry, excuse me. Yeah, I can't pronounce his last name, but I've had a chance to talk with him, and Leo's amazing. You seem to have a knack for attracting some really just the top thought leaders. And there so many of them are here with us, and they're still coming. It's not like we've ran out. It's like you always got something in your back pocket where you're bringing someone else in. What do you think your key, or what's the key that you've used to really bring over this top talent? Because when you look at our talent at eXp of leadership and builders, there literally isn't another company that has it. There's no other company. I don't care if it's cloud-based or traditional brick and mortar. There really isn't another company that's stacked up a lineup of leaders. And those are the leaders I'd want to go. I just wouldn't bet against these leaders. These are the guys I'd want to go to war with if we had to go to war.
Right. I think there's, I learned probably by the time I was in my mid-30s about the power of a vision. And then I also, the power of always thinking bigger. I don't remember his first name, Dr. Schwartz wrote a book called The Power of Thinking Big. I think he wrote it in the 60s or 70s. Amazing book. And I read that in my early 20s, I think, was when I read it for the first time. But people follow people with big visions. And this is, by the way, this I think is really germane even to agents who are looking to start a real estate team. Or even if you're in your own personal real estate practice, a lot of agents don't actually think big. And so it's tough to attract customers, clients. It's tough to attract team members to your team, because if your vision isn't big and ambitious and you can't articulate what it is, it's going to be really hard for people to jump on board and want to support you. So the iteration for anyone that wants to grow something is to always be iterating on their vision such that the vision continues to grow. It's actually kind of the job of any leader, is to always be thinking bigger and to articulate that bigger vision to the organization so they can be enthused, so they can be inspired, and they think bigger, etc. Obviously you look at any, and I don't suggest that anything a comparison, but if you look, who's the biggest thinker on the planet right now? Well, it's Elon Musk. I mean, and the guy is just, he's out there. He's a little bit nutty, but the fact is that he inspires a generation of individuals to think about, what would it be like to go to Mars? What would it be like to save planet Earth, from itself through, sustainable, solar and electric automobiles? And basically he's taken them, he's the Pied Piper of the future Jetsons, and so he's basically making the Jetsons a reality for us. And so when we look at, who do we want to follow, and you look inside of the different companies that exist out there, there's not a lot. Jeff Bezos is another one. Now, turns out you take anybody who's a big thinker, they all basically want to go to space. So it's Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Richard Branson. I mean, these are probably three of the most iconic big vision people out there, and we all look up to them because they're actually doing something that most of us can't even conceive. So the more that we can do that, the more we're going to attract great talent to come along with us, not because they aren't great talent, they don't have great ideas, but they have a choice. They go, I can go build something on my own. This is a choice that Leo had. He exited, had a great exit that doesn't have to work again, if he doesn't want to, but he had a choice. Do I go do another startup? Because he could do it. He thinks big. He can attract a great team. or do I go and join a team that thinks big and we do something even bigger? And that was kind of the decision-making matrix. And you look at the different people that are on the team, between, you know, Courtney Keating to Michael Valdez to Jeff Whiteside to, you know, and the list goes on the executive team, Patrick O'Neill and Shoaib Ansari. I mean, these are, when you start to actually look at their background and their pedigree, I mean, they're here because there's a money component. You know, there's a little bit of a money component, but it's the mission and the vision. Because in a lot of cases, they could probably get paid more than they're getting paid here, but they're with companies that don't have a big vision.
Right. As Chief Strategy Officer, what are some of the projects that you're excited about that Leo's been working on? I know there's been a ton of traction in the reload side of things. How is that going to impact the agents at eXp?
Oh, well, he's working on a bunch of stuff, and he just demoed something for me last week, and 2 weeks ago, I think maybe, and it blew me away. And so we were getting ready to roll it out, and I'm going, we should get a patent on this because it's that revolutionary. And so we actually sort of pulled it back. We're going to work on seeing if we can get a patent on it. If we can, then it becomes something, you know, really crazy cool that would be, you know, exclusive to eXp, and nobody else will ever be able to use that. So he's pulling together a lot of different threads on, you know, on the lead generation front, the partnership front, et cetera. One of the things that I got a chance to work on, and Leo's working on it with me as well as some other folks, Courtney as well, is enhancing all the healthcare options. So did you see the video I did in Workplace a couple days ago with Jason Sherman?
Yep. Yeah.
So, you know, if we've actually got the best health care plan for agents anywhere on the planet, and we're actually going to expand it into other countries. So, you know, whether it be, you know, obviously Puerto Rico, but also like to Canada, the UK, Australia, and other places where we're going to actually be able to provide insurance-like benefits to agents, which we've been doing. We've got over 10,000 agents that have that. So I'm super excited about that, but I'm also excited about, you know, some of the things that we're talking about. Could we actually bring this to the real estate industry? Like, healthcare is like one of those things that's great to have. We first mover, we were the only company that did it, but we're now starting to explore how could we make this available to agents that aren't even here, because it's kind of one of those things that, you know, is probably better to share with the entire industry, not just keep under wraps at eXp, because it affects people's real lives. So we're doing some really cool stuff there. But there, anyway, there's a number of things. Leo's doing some amazing stuff, and you'll hear about one of the partnerships we're going to talk about, I think, on Tuesday next week, just before the bell ringing at NASDAQ.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
So with this market shift, and you know, Glenn, you said all along that, you know, you felt like this model was really built 4 times like this when the market does shift, and that's certainly seems to be the case as we continue to grow. What should we be doing as a company, or what do you feel like the initiatives are for us to continue the growth, or you know, through this shift, and, you know, a lot of agents getting out of the business, there's still more agents getting in the business. How do we maintain the growth that we've had up to this point during this market shift?
Yeah, so, you know, it's all about adding value. You know, at the end of the day, you know, agents are looking for value, and you can say eXp as a platform is an amazing platform. You know, Keller Williams is an amazing platform. You know, there's a number of companies that are great platforms, but it's around the people that you're actually in business with. I think that's where the differentiation really kicks in. So, when we think about the fact that, every agent in eXp has the opportunity to have a business, a full-blown, effectively brokerage inside of the brokerage without going through the brain damage of starting their own brokerage. I mean, you got the accounting, the bookkeeping, the transaction management, you've got the compliance, the overview, all that stuff. And what you need to do is bring you as a human being to this to help other human beings grow their business. It's an amazing place to sort of think about it. So I think about the idea even inside of eXp, we have, groups and of agents that are growing because of the way that people are adding value. And we've had some groups that would shrink a little bit because we're so large. We've got a little bit of that. So I think it's all about, as agents, adding value, supporting agents, helping them build their businesses, because it's financially rewarding to do that.
Yeah.
We're also positioned really well in that we're, as a company, we developed in 2009. It's interesting. This is the one innovation that none of the, we'll say, the copycats have copied. Obviously, they're going to do whatever they're going to do. But one of the things that we did is we created 2 shares in our revenue share plan. We created what we call our exponential share, and then we created what we call our expansion share. And and there's a lot of agents, that aren't, they aren't Jay Kinders, they're not Al Staseks. They're individual agents. They're out there building their business, but they know somebody that would be good at the agent attraction side. But they themselves that's not going to be their focus. Their focus is out there listing and selling real estate. But let's say they attract a Jay or an Al or Veronica or whoever, they attract a really good attractor. The cool thing about eXp is we actually pay on all 7 levels, no matter how many people you bring to eXp. So you get a small share down 7 levels, and that builds out over time. That actually becomes meaningful for a lot of agents. I know some agents that are making tens of thousands of dollars a year just from the expansion share of eXp, because they attracted somebody who actually built a large organization. And so, the cool thing about eXp is we've kind of addressed kind of every sort of persona in real estate, whether you're, on the equity side, if you're just a top producer, at our Icon Agent program and other things. But at the end of the day, I think it's all about, again, meeting agents where they're at, helping them do more business, and then showing them how the eXp model ultimately enhances what they're already doing. And I think that's the real mission.
Glenn, as we wrap up a little, I want to end it on a note that I know is it's near and dear to your heart. It's been kind of a cornerstone of Mike, Jay, myself since I've met these guys. Fitness and health has been, at the forefront of our priorities, and challenging ourselves to do crazy things like races and stuff like that. But you've embraced, I think specifically in the last 18 months or so, a whole new lifestyle of health for you personally, but you've brought those components to help agents get through or break through to the next level of their health in their life, improving their health, not just physically, but also on the mental side. I think that it's something that's often looked over, that the mental health of our agents and brokers and team leaders it's a high stress job that we've put ourselves into. It's not a cakewalk by any means. And, from a personal experience, I don't think I've ever experienced, depression or anything like that up until a few years ago, where I've had my own, challenges personally that I've had to go through in my personal life, but also in business too. This business makes you tough, but sometimes it can break you a little bit. And I'm just being honest with you, and have gone through times where, I'm feeling all over the place. You've brought not just healthcare and health insurance, but a whole new preventative movement in health to help us live longer, happier lives as agents and brokers. Would you share and just kind of someone that's watching this, that's looking at our company? And I mean, this is really a huge differentiator among every single real estate brokerage that's out there. No one's done what you've done, and bringing that front and center. Could you just share a little bit on someone who's never heard of that part of our company, eXp Health?
Yeah. So, one of the things that I've been fortunate enough, I mean, a lot of times you learn stuff by going through adversity. And for me, the adversity that I went through health-wise started in around 2016 in earnest. We just got off the road in a motor coach, driving around the country for 10 months, full time. And that actually took a toll on me, probably because I was sitting down more than I should, got chronic indigestion, ended up going to the doctor. They basically said I was going to be on Prilosec for the rest of my life. I was like, man, that kind of doesn't make sense. And I was bloated and gained weight, and I actually got up to 225 pounds in 2019. And so I was, and then I literally went into, I had what I thought was like some sort of heart issue. And so I went into the emergency room 2 or 3 times. They couldn't find anything. Finally figured it out actually this year. But what I did do is I really started to focus on, weight and exercise and that type of thing. And I've made all this money. Why don't I go and spend some of it to actually, really optimize health? So I started to go to the Peter Diamandis longevity retreats. So I've done 2 of those. They're expensive, but inside of that, I ended up getting exposed to some of the best, the cutting edge of science on longevity and health and all that. So about, I think it was November of 2021, I actually went on the Biome plan. So Biome is we just formed a partnership, but I went on to it for about a year. So November, I started doing, it's basically they do a blood, saliva, stool samples. They actually sequence your RNA, and through that they can actually tell you what's going on in your body. They can't actually give you a medical diagnosis, but what they can do is they can tell you what to eat, what not to eat, and they can then also give you precision supplements that actually addresses those things, to make you healthier. And so I actually went from my biological age went from 54 to 48 in less than a year by just kind of following a number of these protocols. And so this year went again, or this last year in September, and I'm like, why aren't we bringing this information to our agents and brokers? And so that we created Success Health, formed a partnership with Biome. We have over 1,000 agents now that are actually on the Biome protocol. We've got groups that are now talking about their health and intermittent fasting and a number of other things to sort of optimize their health inside of eXp. And then I just got together Naveen and then Jason Sherman from Clearwater, and we're actually creating a further partnership to help individuals with their health through the health share programs and Biome and some other things, and actually getting even discounts on the health share for people who are who are proactive about their health. So health for me is like, well, one, I've always been a focus group of one. And I say that in all sincerity, in that I realized early on in my career that every challenge that I was going through, there were lots of other agents going through the same challenges, even if I hadn't talked to them. And what I found is that the more vulnerable and open I've been about the challenges that I have, the more I hear from agents saying that's exactly what's going on with me. Most of us, and we've heard the term that a lot of us live lives of quiet desperation, because we're not vulnerable. We don't talk about what's going on in our lives. And so we're suffering in some fundamental way, but we don't want to appear weak in front of others. So we don't admit to any of that stuff going on. And so that ultimately, for me, it's about, sharing and being vulnerable, saying what's going on for me. Like right now, I'm dealing my heart issue. It turns out, I just found out, I mentioned that I had that heart issue. It's because I have a hiatal hernia. I've had it since I was a kid. But it basically, where your for lack of a better term, your stomach actually pushes up through your diaphragm, and then because it's up there above your diaphragm, it actually pushes up into the area around your heart, and it mimics things like heart attacks and stuff like that. And that's what was going on for me. So it was, through the weight loss and some other things, it calmed it down and et cetera. But I ate a bunch of food over Christmas, aggravated it, and finally figured out exactly what had been going on for so many years. But for me, it's like, if this stuff's going on for me, I'm not that special or unique. Then there's a lot of people that are having similar issues that don't know what the hell is going on. And why not just share this? Because I want everybody to live the longest, healthiest life they possibly can. It's good for them. It's good for the business. I mean, quite frankly, if agents can sell real estate longer, it's not a bad thing, because we're running a real estate business. But at the end of the day, I think everybody wants to be healthier, and I think I want to help everybody live healthier in whatever way I can do it as well.
Live long and prosperous. Yeah. That's
there you go.
Man, we appreciate you, Glenn. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, we promise that it won't be another 5 years before we get back together and hang out with you again.
Oh yeah, no, let's do it, sir. Let's do it at least once a year.
There we go.
That'd be fun. Absolutely. Thank you so much for everything you do for us and the brokers and the growth of this company, and your continued vision and your continued iteration on the value proposition you bring to us agents and brokers. We love you, and appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, Glenn.
Take care, Glenn.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.